Montecito does fit that bill. It is private. A lot of billionaires are there. Security is always around. If it's not yours, it's someone else's.
As Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are quietly trying to hawk their Montecito home without putting it on the market and going through the embarrassment of having to do that.
Harry was not going to be sitting on the throne, and Harry therefore was not going to have a throne to relinquish for her.
Prince Harry's relationship with Britain has become increasingly complicated. After years of publicly describing the UK as a place where he and his family could not feel safe, Harry is now reportedly looking to spend more time there, particularly to see his father, King Charles, and reconnect with his British charities.
Part of the problem, as we all now know for Meghan and Harry, is that their big deal, the 10-year deal of, taking the world by storm.
Meghan Markle and Prince Harry are facing a crushing court bill and vanishing A-list friend.
That change has immediately brought the security dispute back into the spotlight. Harry has argued that his family needs adequate protection when he visits Britain, and he has taken legal action over the arrangements available to him. But critics are asking a straightforward question. If Britain is considered too dangerous without significant security, why does Harry now want to return more frequently?
I will say that a more relevant headline is that Harry is planning on spending more time in the United Kingdom. And that was in the Telegraph with friends saying that. And JK, I mean, you've heard him as much as I have over the last few years talking about how miserable the United Kingdom is.
The criticism is not really about visiting his father. It is about the expectations surrounding those visits.
Harry has spent years building a new life in California with Meghan Markle after stepping away from senior royal duties. Through interviews, documentaries, his memoir, and commercial deals, he has spoken extensively about his experiences with the royal family and his reasons for leaving Britain. That history makes his renewed interest in spending more time in the UK particularly noticeable, because the country he once portrayed as deeply troubled is now becoming important to his future plans.
I never truly felt that this was an area that, they could really make a lot of money on. And that's really what Harry and Meghan need. They need to make a lot of money. Mainly because I would suggest, and this is just my personal take, but she clearly felt there was a lot of money. There is a lot of money in the royal family, but I've often said to you, chums, it's not available to you. You can be surrounded by a lot of money. You can have people assisting you, all sorts of stuff. You live a very nice life if that's the sort of life you want.
Harry says there are personal reasons for returning. He wants to see his father and maintain stronger connections with charities such as the Halo Trust and Scotty's Little Soldiers.
Those are understandable reasons, but the security question remains difficult to separate from them. Every British visit now brings attention back to his legal battle over protection, especially because Harry has made clear that security is one of the reasons he worries about bringing his family to the UK. For the public, that creates a conflict between wanting to understand his personal concerns and questioning whether taxpayers should carry the burden of extraordinary protection for someone who no longer performs regular royal duties.
That the Sussex's finances are a black box. And when Paula Frolic asks, so can they actually afford it in this new essay, Coy responds, it's similar to the royal family. We don't really know what income they have. Even the mega deals were guesswork. The Netflix one they used to have and the Spotify deal, all of that was estimations. We don't actually know exactly how much they've made over the years.
His recent meeting with King Charles has also attracted attention. The official photographs were carefully controlled, and Meghan did not appear in the palace images.
The released photograph showed King Charles with family members and Harry separately, creating considerable discussion about what the images were intended to communicate. The photographs alone cannot tell us what happened behind closed doors, but they demonstrate how carefully the royal family manages its public presentation.
The biggest indication of that is the fact that Harry has taken on all of these legal cases time and time again. That doesn't really indicate that he has any huge concerns over his finances. Still, it is, of course, a massive hit.
Reports have also suggested that discussions took place about Harry's future relationship with Britain and the possibility of more frequent visits.
There is another reason this matters now. Harry and Meghan's American career has not developed exactly as many expected when they first left royal life.
All of those things have to go back. And as we've often been told by Harry, Meghan gave up so much of her career to come and join him. And of course, the advice that he didn't take from William was the fact that we'll make sure this is what she wants. A lot of people misread William in the beginning, and I have to tell you this from an excellent source.
Their Spotify partnership ended, while their Netflix relationship became much more limited than the enormous expectations surrounding the original announcement. Some of their entertainment projects have also struggled to generate the kind of commercial impact associated with their global profile. Cookie Queens, for example, became the subject of criticism after a weak theatrical performance, with reports placing it behind Cat Video Fest 2026 at the box office.
That does not prove that Harry and Meghan are running out of money. Their private finances are not fully known.
He's coming home. He's coming home, and it is not the man we want home. Prince Harry now admitting his desire, his plot, his secret ploy, his plan. You can use whatever term you want to overturn the Sandringham summit and reverse Megxit, announcing to the Sunday Times and its royal editor, Roy Anika, that he'll be back.
But it does raise a broader question about the sustainability of their post-royal business model. Their greatest asset has always been global recognition, yet recognition does not automatically translate into successful films, streaming projects, or long-term commercial partnerships. When several projects fail to meet expectations, attention naturally returns to the one institution that gave Harry worldwide recognition in the first place, the royal family.
And that is why his renewed interest in Britain is attracting so much scrutiny. He may genuinely want a closer relationship with his father and his British causes, but the circumstances surrounding that return are impossible to ignore.
Harry wants to spend more time in the UK for several reasons. The money's run out. No one wants to hire me anymore. Meghan's an absolute bitch at home. Oh, no. No, they're not the reasons. He wants to try and see his father and his wider family more frequently. Interesting, he didn't care about that in the past, did he? And also feels he can more effectively support his UK-based charities and patronages, including the Halo Trust and Scotty's Little Soldiers, with more regular in-person engagements and meetings. That's it? That's all he's got going on? Pah.
For supporters, Harry is simply trying to rebuild family connections while continuing work that matters to him. For critics, the situation looks very different. He left Britain, publicly explained why, built a new life abroad, and now wants greater access to the country while continuing to demand specific security arrangements. The disagreement is therefore no longer simply about whether Harry should come home. It is about what returning actually means, who is responsible for making it possible, and whether expectations placed on Britain have changed along with Harry's plans.
But it's just a lot of money, and people are not sure where it goes, and there's not a lot of money left over. So where are you spending this money? How is this allowed to happen? Where are the accountants?
The entertainment side of Harry and Meghan's life has also become harder to ignore. One project in particular has drawn attention because its performance raised questions about how much influence their names still carry in Hollywood.
The Cookie Queens reportedly opened with extremely weak theatrical numbers, averaging only about $466 per theater during its opening period.
He wants more of a foothold here, the source went on. More trips back, less courtroom drama. Interesting. I don't think any of us were forcing him into those legal battles. Do you? Do you think that? And what about the marriage? We just going to accept that he doesn't now want to spend much time with Meghan Markle at all, and everyone's just going to pretend as if that's totally normal? Oh, and by the way, the source adds, and he always loves seeing his family.
The film was even compared unfavorably with Cat Video Fest 2026, a compilation of internet cat videos that performed better at the box office. For critics, the comparison became symbolic of a much bigger problem. Celebrity recognition can generate headlines, but it cannot guarantee that audiences will actually pay to watch a project.
Meghan had publicly described Cookie Queens as a warm and inspiring story, but the film itself was reportedly much darker than that description suggested.
Now, Harry and Meghan's newest film project, Cookie Queens, crumbled at the box office over the weekend. The documentary marked the Sussexes' theatrical feature debut as executive producers, but the film opened at the box office at number 15, which was 5 spots behind Cat Video Fest 2026, a 70-minute theatrical compilation of the internet's best cat videos.
The documentary focuses on competition between girls from wealthy families and those from families with fewer financial resources. Some of the girls are trying to earn enough money for opportunities such as summer camp, while the competition itself exposes uncomfortable differences in what families can afford to provide. That contrast led some reviewers to describe the film as surprisingly bleak rather than the straightforward feel-good production that had been promoted publicly.
The box office numbers made the situation even more difficult. The reported daily totals dropped sharply after opening.
Cookie Queens was just going to be such a box office flop. I think Harry and Meghan once again showing that they're really naive when it comes to how the entertainment industry works. Like, we can see how much this movie is taking. It's not a good idea for you to put anything out to the box office. Like, these headlines were almost inevitable given the movie is not particularly good.
One reported figure was $118,454 on Sunday, followed by $40,614 on Monday and $49,152 on Tuesday. With the film playing across many theaters, the average revenue per location became particularly damaging because cinemas have significant operating costs even when a film is performing poorly.
There's a couple things going on here, Dan. Number one, no, she did not do any research because she doesn't do that. We saw that with Archwell in the fact that she gave over $50,000 of Archwell money to a organization that was headed by an Islamist, and then was like, oops, and once it was made public by yours truly, they yanked the money immediately, but damage was already done. They don't do research. Meghan didn't even watch the movie because it's not that sweet. It's really about rich kids versus poor kids, and how these poor children, the poor ones, not the rich ones, are vying to make enough money to go to summer camp. So, no, it's actually quite dark.
That turned the project into another uncomfortable discussion about whether Harry and Meghan's entertainment profile can still translate into reliable commercial success.
And Cookie Queens was not being discussed in isolation. It arrived after other major changes to the Sussexes' commercial partnerships.
Their Spotify arrangement had already ended, while their Netflix relationship had evolved considerably from the huge expectations surrounding its original announcement.
Now suddenly he wants to come back. In the royal family appears to be so much more attractive when Hollywood stops returning his calls.
Completely agree. I completely agree. The hypocrisy is enough to do my head in. I'm sorry you weren't in England. You didn't hear our alert. That was to tell us not to use barbecues, not that there was a nuclear weapon heading in our direction.
The result is not proof that Harry and Meghan have no money or no future in entertainment, because their private finances and contracts are not fully public. But it does show that the extraordinary commercial momentum expected after their departure from royal duties has not continued without setbacks.
That brings the conversation back to Britain. If Hollywood is no longer providing the same level of opportunity, Harry's connection to the royal family becomes commercially and personally significant again.
And we all knew this was going to happen. It's unfortunate because the Cookie Queens producers the people who actually made the movie, let Harry and Meghan come in for two reasons. Number one, they thought, well, our small little documentary will get some attention. And it did, because as we all know, Harry and Meghan can get you attention. They just won't get you the right attention. And the only other reason they were brought in as executive producers, which is usually just a money role or a title role, is because the producers thought they could get their movie into Netflix. And Netflix took one look at it and said, no, thank you. You are welcome to shop it elsewhere.
The criticism from opponents is that Harry cannot simultaneously reject the institution when it suits him and then expect that same institution to provide an easy route back whenever circumstances change. Supporters would argue that family relationships and charitable commitments are separate from commercial success, and that Harry has every right to maintain those connections.
The disagreement ultimately comes down to whether his return represents a genuine attempt to rebuild family ties or a recognition that his American strategy has not developed as successfully as originally expected.
On Sunday, it took $118,454. That slumped on Monday to $40,614. Up a little bit on Tuesday to $49,152. But the damning statistic, Paula, is actually it's in a lot of theatres, right? Which means that the average taking per theatre for Cookie Queens is now down to $466.86. Now, you know a lot about the economics of Hollywood, and you also know a lot about the economics of the movie business. No cinema can keep a film playing if they're taking $466.
Then there is Meghan's position, which has also become a subject of intense speculation. Her public relationships with several prominent figures appear to have changed over time.
The discussion around her birthday was especially noticeable because several famous names who had previously been associated with her did not publicly acknowledge it. Beyoncé, Serena Williams, Oprah Winfrey, and members of the Kardashian circle were among the names mentioned in the surrounding commentary. The silence does not establish that friendships have ended, but it has certainly encouraged speculation about how much of Meghan's former Hollywood network remains close to her today.
Meghan's movie was beaten by a cat compilation video.
Oh my God.
It was literally a documentary, I use that very term loosely, about a bunch of internet cat videos just slammed together. And that is, to me, it says it all, really.
One name received particular attention, Jamie Kern Lima. Her silence was notable because she had previously appeared extremely supportive of Meghan.
What made the situation more interesting was the timing of Jamie's new podcast, whose opening episode focused on recognizing narcissistic behavior and understanding unhealthy patterns in personal relationships. Jamie did not publicly identify Meghan as a subject, so any direct connection remains speculation. Still, the timing and the contrast with her previous public birthday tribute created a wave of discussion that was difficult for commentators to ignore.
If that is truly what he wants, then maybe he should stop suing anyone who dares to disagree with him or hold him and his wife accountable. Maybe he should visit his family without briefing the press on his every move, only to turn around and complain that his privacy has been violated. At this point, I wouldn't believe Harry if he told me the sky was blue.
But the most striking comparison came from someone much further outside Hollywood. Harry's former girlfriend, Chelsea Bavey, appeared to be living exactly the kind of private life Harry once said he wanted.
Chelsea has built a jewelry business and a family life away from the constant attention surrounding the royal family. Her public glimpse into that life showed ordinary family moments, her work, and time with her children, without the enormous celebrity machinery surrounding Harry and Meghan.
The real slight came not from David Foster, but I think it came from Jamie Kern Lima, her former best friend, who last year was leaving gushing birthday notes and all of this kind of stuff.
Firstly, I need to remind you of how Jamie Kern Lima clearly did know Meghan Markle was a narcissistic case. So this is why I am convinced that Paula Frolic is right on this, because when Jamie Kern Lima hosted that interview, there was lots of weirdness, but perhaps one of the most weird moments was when she sat there reading the most ludicrous.
The contrast became powerful because Harry had repeatedly presented privacy and a quieter family existence as important reasons for stepping away from the royal life.
And that contrast leaves Harry facing a difficult reality. The life he once imagined finding outside the monarchy has not necessarily turned out the way he expected.
He now has a home and family life in California, international recognition, and major commercial opportunities. But he also remains deeply connected to Britain. His father is there, his charities are there, and the royal institution remains an unavoidable part of his identity.
Now, this particular thing, as I said, was a visit back by Harry and Meghan, and predominantly, I have to say that they stuck to the rules, they behaved, and they did everything they were supposed to do. That's what Meghan has told staff anyway, but as I told you, first and exclusive on our show, she was fizzing by the fact that she didn't get the picture. The picture really now retains in the rights of His Majesty the King, and the picture is of them as, you know, Camilla, the King, and then there's a separate picture of the King with the two children.
That is why every return to the UK carries much more weight than an ordinary family visit. Harry may have left the institution, but the institution has never completely left Harry.
The story becomes even more personal when Harry's past relationships entered the conversation.
One name in particular has resurfaced because of the very different life she appears to have built.
Chelsea Davy, who was in a long-term relationship with Harry before Meghan Markle, recently offered a glimpse into her private world. Her life now revolves around her family, her jewelry business, and
Why is he putting this information into the press? It doesn't make any sense. But if you look at it from the perspective that Meghan and Harry may be in conflict with his decision to go back frequently, or to the fact that he's even putting this out into the press, it could be a way to send a message to his wife that that is what we're getting ready to do. We're getting ready to go back more often because we're going to move back eventually.
and a quieter existence away from the royal spotlight.
There was no obvious attempt to turn those moments into a major celebrity event, and that simplicity made the contrast with Harry's current life especially noticeable.
It is an uncomfortable comparison because privacy was one of the things Harry once said he wanted. Chelsea appears to have found that without needing the enormous public platform Harry and Meghan created.
Her videos showed everyday family routines, work, and time with her children, including moments where the children were deliberately shown without revealing their faces.
So it's interesting how those pictures were developed and put together. You get the picture, if you'll pardon the pun, chums. Now, behind the scenes, where it's even more interesting is the fact that there was obviously a discussion, and this is from an excellent source, as you can imagine, not just at one location, but at two locations where they visited. And the idea really was that they were going to discuss exactly the future and where things went and how they could develop certain things. Now, naturally, you would imagine the problem was, well, how do you develop a situation that's been, well, broken?
Her business has also developed without the same level of publicity surrounding Harry and Meghan's commercial ventures. The contrast does not prove that one life is better than the other, but it does illustrate that a private existence was possible outside the royal system without becoming a global media campaign.
Harry's own legal proceedings have also shown that his relationship with Chelsea was not something he simply forgot. The past has remained part of his story.
That makes the renewed attention around Chelsea more significant, even though she has not appeared to seek it. She continued building her own life while Harry's public journey moved in a completely different direction. Instead of royal duties, he pursued independence, media projects, and legal battles while continuing to speak about privacy and security. The irony is that the quieter life he once described as desirable can now be seen elsewhere, outside the royal spotlight, and without the same constant confrontation.
Meanwhile, public opinion toward Meghan has also become a major issue. One reported survey figure was particularly damaging.
The figure cited was just 18% of British people viewing Meghan positively, while 61% viewed her unfavorably. If accurate, that represents an extremely difficult public image problem, particularly for someone whose future still depends partly on maintaining relevance in both Britain and the United States. It also helps explain why every new development involving Harry's return to Britain
Put out that weird video we all laughed at. Or it was last year. And the problem is this year she didn't put out anything at all, and now has a lovely podcast going on about how to deal with a narcissist.
Who could she be talking about, Paula?
I'm not sure, but I do think it's interesting that the biggest snubs came from the people who were actually quiet. Serena didn't wish her happy birthday. Of course, they're not really talking anymore. Beyonce, she of the text, didn't do anything. The Kardashians, also insanely quiet. The only people who wished her happy birthday were Kelly Zafjan and Tracy Robin.
Attracts such intense scrutiny.
But numbers like these need to be understood carefully. Public opinion can change, and a single survey should not be treated as a permanent verdict.
Exactly, but the broader trend described here is still important because it comes alongside several other developments. The Sussexes have faced criticism over entertainment projects. Their professional partnerships have changed, and Harry continues to be involved in disputes over his security arrangements in Britain. None of these developments individually determines their future, but together they create a very different picture from the confident post-royal beginning many people expected.
Harry's position is therefore unusually complicated. He wants greater access to Britain while remaining independent from the institution that made him famous.
That is difficult because the monarchy is not simply a family business that can be switched on and off whenever circumstances change. Harry can be a son visiting his father, a patron supporting charities, and the private citizen living overseas. But his name still carries the weight of the crown. Every visit therefore becomes politically and publicly significant, especially when security, royal resources, and taxpayer money are part of the conversation.
So it's not just Meghan's Hollywood friends who are gone. Right? Beyonce, Serena Williams, even Kris Jenner. But it's the coterie that were uber close to her and Montecito vanishing too, including, believe it or not, the ultimate sycophant Jamie Kern Lima.
And this is why the public reaction has been so direct. People are not necessarily saying Harry cannot return.
They are questioning the terms under which he expects to return. The strongest criticism is essentially that if Harry believes Britain is unsafe without an extensive security operation, then he should reconsider whether frequent visits are practical. That argument is emotionally powerful because it turns a complicated legal dispute into a simple question of personal choice. If the risks are unacceptable, why keep coming back?
At the same time, Harry's supporters can point to his father, his charities, and his connection to Britain as legitimate reasons to return. Those motivations should not simply be dismissed.
That Meghan thought she would have the pull, the name, the title to lure people in because it was something that she's doing. But all it does, it validates her failure. It validates that her name means absolutely nothing. It shows people that you can't rely on her to bring any good to a project. It shows you that anything that she is attached to will fail.
That is the important distinction in this story. Wanting to see King Charles or support British charities does not automatically mean Harry has abandoned his concerns about security, and asking for protection does not automatically mean he wants to resume royal duties. The real tension comes from the fact that his personal relationship with Britain is becoming stronger at exactly the moment when his independence from the royal institution is being questioned more closely.
His return is therefore more than a few flights between California and London. It is about identity, family, and the consequences of leaving one world while remaining permanently connected to it.
Harry spent years trying to establish a life separate from the monarchy, but the monarchy remains central to how the public understands him. His father is the king, his family remains in Britain, and his title continues to follow him wherever he goes. That makes it almost impossible for Harry to become completely detached from the institution, even if he never intends to return as a working royal.
I really do think it points to her friendship or ex-friendship with Meghan. I mean, how could it not? I mean, you're showing signs of not even talking to her anymore. And then we have this as a topic. You know, everything in media with people like this is very intentional because it's like in the church, you know, you go do something, you sin, and then the preacher goes up there and gives a sermon about your sin, not saying your name, but giving the sermon because he wants you to get the picture of what, you know, he's talking about. So I think it's the same thing here. And I mean, how could it not be?
And perhaps that is the biggest contradiction of all. Harry wanted freedom from the royal system, yet his strongest connection to Britain still comes through that same family.
The public can debate whether his choices were right or wrong, but one fact is difficult to escape. Harry's future remains closely tied to Britain in ways that neither distance nor commercial success in America has completely changed. His relationship with King Charles, his British charitable work, his security dispute, and his royal identity all continue pulling him back toward the country he once left. The question now is not whether that connection exists, but how Harry intends to manage it without repeating the same conflicts that defined his departure.
In the end, Harry's return to Britain is about much more than security. It is about a man who left the royal system but never managed to completely separate himself from the country, the family, and the identity that came with it.
He still has reasons to come back, whether that means seeing King Charles, supporting British charities, or maintaining a relationship with his wider family. But every return also brings the same unresolved questions about protection, public money, and his complicated relationship with the institution he once criticized so openly.
She is a cold person that is very dangerous. And I really do mean this, Dan. It will be a very hard price for Harry to pay when they are no longer together, because he is going to be burned to the ground.
And we see it coming. We see it coming. And P. Dinah, the K word comes up a lot, doesn't it? Karma. And, there is a certain karma with the way that Prince Harry allowed his wife to treat others, including his late grandmother and late grandfather.
That is why even an apparently private family visit can become a major public story.
His American life has also failed to remove that connection. The entertainment projects, commercial partnerships, and a new public image have all given Harry and Meghan independence, but none of them replaced the influence of the royal name.
Their professional setbacks have made that reality more visible, although it would be wrong to claim that every project has failed or that their private finances are known in full. What can be seen publicly is that some major partnerships ended or changed, while projects such as Cooking Queens face significant criticism and weak reported theatrical results. Against that backdrop, Harry's continued interest in Britain naturally invites questions about where he sees his long-term future.
Public opinion has also become part of the equation. Meghan's reported approval figures in Britain have fallen to a particularly low level.
Chelsea Davy is living the life Harry wanted, living privately on an island. And I want to show it to you. Firstly, for a couple of reasons. We didn't ever hear much from Chelsea Davy, so it's really interesting to hear her sort of deep South African Zimbabwean accent and actually just really look at her life and think, wow, thank goodness she didn't settle for Harry, because what she found was actually so much more positive. But this is going to hurt Harry. It really is going to hurt Harry. Watch this.
I'll spend the day with my mum. Well, she wants her doing business from Mauritius. Phil and my mum get up quite early. I normally head out for morning walk. When they get back to the house, me and my sister are heading down for some breakfast before we head off for school.
Today we are shooting the new Pearl collection, so as soon as the kids leave, the crew arrives, and while the models get straight into hair and makeup, we look at the location options. We started with some still life shots, which is exactly when I managed to drop some of the jewelry into the sea.
The figure cited was 18% viewing Meghan positively, compared with 61% negatively. One poll cannot define an entire country's attitude forever, but it illustrates how difficult the Sussexes' relationship with the British public has become. At the same time, the silence from several famous acquaintances around Meghan's birthday created another round of speculation about whether her once powerful social network remains as close as it appeared.
And then there's the contrast with people from Harry's past, particularly Chelsea Davy. Her quiet family life has provided an interesting comparison with the life Harry eventually chose.
Chelsea has built her own business and family life away from the royal drama, while Harry has remained surrounded by lawyers, media attention, security disputes, and international scrutiny. The comparison does not establish that Harry regrets his choices, and there is no basis for claiming that his former relationship represents some lost future. It simply highlights how different two people who once shared part of the same story have ultimately chosen to live.
That brings the argument back to the question ordinary people are asking. If Harry wants to return, should the public accept that without question?
There is no simple answer. Harry has legitimate personal reasons to visit Britain, and concerns about security should be taken seriously rather than mocked or dismissed.
Just 18% of Brits now view the Duchess of Sussex positively, the lowest she has ever registered, while a crushing 61% view her unfavourably.
But the public also has a legitimate interest when taxpayer-funded protection and royal resources become part of the discussion, especially after Harry chose to step away from official royal responsibilities.
That is why the reaction has become so blunt. Some people believe the answer is simply to stay away if the security requirements are too high.
Others believe Harry should be able to visit his family without being permanently punished for the decisions he made years ago. Somewhere between those two positions is the practical reality. Harry can continue coming to Britain, but the question of how he's protected, who pays for that protection, and what role he wants in the country will remain unresolved, unless those issues are settled clearly.
This is the life that Prince Harry wanted. It is the life he could have had. P. Dinah.
Yes, absolutely. And you know what I found so fascinating about this, Dan, is she shared this with us, showing only the backs of her children, right? She also showed us her business. And it's exactly how Meghan is trying to do her business, but she does it.
Harry wanted a life outside the monarchy, yet years later, Britain and the royal family remained central to his story.
His relationship with King Charles, his British charities, his security case, and his royal identity have kept that connection alive even while he has built a home thousands of miles away. The public may never agree on whether Harry made the right decision by leaving, but his current situation shows that leaving the institution did not mean leaving its consequences behind. And that is ultimately why his return to Britain continues to generate such strong reactions. He may no longer be a working royal, but the expectations, privileges, and controversies attached to being Prince Harry have never completely disappeared.
And for viewers who have followed this story closely, there is one thing that remains clear. Harry's future relationship with Britain will depend not only on what he wants, but also on what the public, the courts, and the royal family are prepared to accept.
The debate over security is therefore unlikely to disappear simply because Harry wants to spend more time in the UK. His family ties, charitable commitments, and personal concerns can all be genuine at the same time, but they still have to exist within the reality created by his decision to step away from royal duties. Whether that balance can finally be achieved without another cycle of lawsuits, public statements, and controversy is a question that now hangs over Harry's continuing relationship with Britain.